Popular history frames the fall of Constantinople in 1453 as a purely religious cataclysm, a clash defined by shattered walls and overwhelming siege warfare. Western art from this era reinforces this perspective, focusing almost exclusively on the chaos of battlefield violence and the breach of Christian defenses. Behind these military successes lay a rigorous administrative algorithm. The state used precise systemic documentation to absorb complex societies into the imperial fold. This two-stage method of conquest allowed the Ottomans to transform brief military victories into centuries of stable, centralized administration. The empire expanded by engineering a multi-ethnic structure that specifically recruited and integrated pre-existing Christian military elites. The imperial tax registry served as the decisive weapon for sustaining Ottoman expansion across the Balkans. The rise of the Ottoman state represents a triumph of pragmatic, bureaucratic statecraft, prioritizing institutional stability over religious annihilation. In the 14th century, the Balkans and the Aegean existed as a collection of fragmented principalities. Stage 1 of expansion relied on suzerainty. Neighboring states transitioned into vassalage, paying tribute to the Sultan while retaining their own borders. This autonomy provided stable buffer zones and a constant supply of auxiliary troops for the front lines. The ultimate objective remained Stage 2, direct control. This required revoking autonomy and eliminating native dynasties to impose imperial rule. Sultan Bayezid I attempted to accelerate this timeline through forceful annexations, but the move triggered a systemic collapse of the empire in 1402. Subsequent sultans recognized the failure of Bayezid's haste, reverting to a policy that prioritized gradual integration over immediate violence. Strategic autonomy functioned as a temporary stepping stone toward the eventual imposition of direct imperial rule. The state triggered the transition to direct rule through the Vilayet Tahriri, a comprehensive statistical survey of the land. This bureaucratic survey documented every taxable resource. It flattened the chaotic feudal landscape, replacing it with a uniform grid of administrative units called sanchaks. The state then distributed the revenue from these precisely audited land blocks directly to the military. Ottoman theory dictated that all land belonged strictly to the Sultan, a principle that effectively neutralized all local inherited rights. This policy standardized the status of the local nobility. They became state-salaried servants whose titles were dependent entirely on the Sultan's decree. The timar ledger operated as a tool for mass assimilation, rewriting Balkan social hierarchies without the need for continued combat. The empire maintained a sharp distinction between the tax-exempt askari military class and the riaya, the tax-paying subjects. Counter to the narrative of religious exclusion, pre-existing local Christian military groups were moved directly into the elite askari class. Registry data from Braničeva shows 62 of 125 timar holders were Christians, highlighting a level of integration that complicates the holy war framework. Lower-tier nobility and Bosnian lords often accepted these terms because the Ottoman system guaranteed their property rights and social standing under a powerful central authority. Resistance typically came from the highest-tier grandees, such as Skanderbeg in Albania, who rebelled because the timar system stripped them of vast independent domains. Assimilation succeeded where the timar system offered regional security and failed only where it threatened supreme local power. The Sultan faced a persistent challenge, preventing the newly assimilated Balkan lords from forming dangerous local factions. To counter this, the state developed the Kul system, a retinue of elite slaves, including the janissaries, who were personally devoted to the Sultan. The Kul functioned as a loyal, artificial elite that operated outside of traditional bloodlines or tribal loyalties. The Sultan maintained absolute authority by balancing these engineered slave forces against the integrated local nobility, creating a stable, deadlocked power structure. By 1453, the Ottoman Empire functioned as a massive, unified bureaucratic machine rather than a mere collection of conquered territories. A continuous flow of resources sustained the state. Survey data moved inward to the capital, while imperial timar decrees moved outward to secure the provinces. Ottoman success in the Balkans rested on structural engineering and pragmatic statecraft. By integrating the Christian military class, The Ottomans transformed potential insurgents into invested participants in the imperial system. The clash of civilizations narrative obscures the actual foundation of the Ottoman Empire: calculated assimilation, meticulous ledgers, and a highly flexible administrative structure.